Great. Yeah, Niharika, over to you.
Okay, you're able to see my screen now? It
Yeah.
should be slides now.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. You have told a lot about me that I have put in my introduction slide, so probably I will skip that slide for now. But welcome all, and thank you all for taking the time out. Time is money. We all know that. So before we start, we say the best way to predict our future is to create it. And that is all what we are trying to do with this sustainability. If the earth is a spaceship, and then we all who are living on this earth are the crew. I expect a lot from this session, and my expectation is that the people who are joining, when they leave this session, they understand what is sustainability, why it is important, what does it mean for you and me, what does it mean for business, countries, and the world, and some important terms for like Paris Agreement and like SDGs. Before I move further, I will start asking a question. So, the people who have joined, what is the idea of sustainability that you all have? What does it mean for you? Can anybody answer?
Yeah.
I am audible, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Anyone? Okay, so let me start. For me, sustainability is I see it from a very I would say uh, it's like we have limited resources. It's not like we have like unlimited resources that never going to end. And uh, sustainability is all about an efficient distribution of all those resources. That's what I believe. And as we all know, environment is a part of that resource. When it comes to environment, okay, we have to be sustainable. We have to be do a adequate allocation of this resources so that we could last for a longer period of time. And as sustainability, as now we are hearing, is it's not just about the environment, it's also about how social governance. Obviously the governance part comes from how we are distributing the resources, and social part also comes from we take into consideration every last individual of the society. There should not be anyone who should be left behind, irrespective of what category, what religion, what gender, and what sort of different sort of variety of people that we sort of divide it into. So for me, that's the sustainability.
I hate
Yes,
the
you are.
fact that I'm going after Ujjwal, but
Yeah.
because I don't have such a nice definition of sustainability. My definition largely comes from my fourth grade EVS textbook,
Uh-huh.
wherein everything that was sustainability to us was meeting our current needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
Uh-huh.
And
Right.
I still look at it the same way. Oh,
Yeah. I thought that you're reading from a slide, anyways. But it's right, huh? It's exactly what you're saying. That sustainability means that we should not compromise on our needs, but we should also ensure that the system we are leaving the system better for future generations as well. Together with sustainability, also comes a term ESG, and that is environmental, social, and governance. Although right now this sustainability and ESG terms are used intermingled, but there is a slight difference between these two. The purpose is still the same, but when we talk about ESG, we are talking about more in terms of set of standards. We are talking more in terms of providing the data, quantitative data, so that investors, people, and the banks who runs our economy can get this information from. If we go further on detail to give some examples around it, is that, as I said, ESG is quantitative. If we are spending our money biodiversity support, so what does that mean? How much of the support has been created? All that information will come in ESG. It is mostly externally regulated, whereas sustainability is self-regulated also. So, for example, if I stop using polythenes, or especially single-use polythenes from my own use, I am trying to be sustainable in my own way. Start using solar panels, I'm trying to be sustainable. Just appreciate the difference, but right now in real world it is being used together, almost synonymous to each other. Please, Ujjwal, please, if somebody has question, you can help me raising that because I cannot see the people here.
Yeah, sure, sure. Please raise
Yeah.
your hand if you have any questions.
Thank you. So now, if we when we go to sustainability and ESG, as you said that you have read, somebody said that you have read it in your fourth class. So it's not a new concept. We knew that there is pollution. We knew that we have to do something about temperature. We knew a lot. But what has changed in last couple of years is there has been traction given to it because the world leaders are coming together. The economies, the policies, the regulations are coming together. And the starting point was Paris Agreement. When you leave this session, what I would like you to remember, when somebody talks about Paris Agreement, remember that we are talking about reducing the global greenhouse gas so that the temperature rises less than 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. This is all that we need to know, and every country is trying to achieve the same. It's a legal binding, it's not an optional activity anymore from here on. Together with Paris Agreement comes a Sustainable Development Goals. These are the goals that has been created by UN. They go hand in hand with Paris Agreement and support each other. There are 17 goals created, and the idea of these 17 goals is that every nation has to achieve it by 2030, 6 years from now, to be honest. And this is a bottom down approach that every country will decide and tell, okay, for these sustainable development goals, these are the activities that I am taking now. And hence the picture of this sustainability and ESG coming together. That is why it is becoming so critical, so important, not only for the corporates, but each and every individual to start thinking, start knowing, and start working towards the sustainability. If the importance and this is clear, let's go very on a wide level that what is happening in the world. I am not saying that I have covered everything that is happening, but I have tried to cover the very major things that are happening. First is the EU is currently the market leader or market is the highest in terms of sustainability and ESG. Here, the whole concept is regulation driven. There are lots of regulation that we hear about, I hear about, and I read about. I have written three regulations right now. There are further that you can Google a lot. First one is SFDR, and I keep on forgetting the full form of this is Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulations. EU taxonomy and the CSRD is the most beautiful thing that has started from this year, 2024, to be honest. What EU taxonomy provide is the classification framework. It gives the language, whereas CSRD provides is the reporting requirement. In Dutch, we have a saying, meten is weten, meaning what you measure is what you know and is what you can change. So with CSRD comes that requirement of measuring the activity, where SFDR disclose the details about the financial products. If we look quickly to US is market driven. They are not the market leader. There are lots of discussion happening out of when I was doing my research. Only one state, California, has made it mandatory for to report on sustainability. Although SEC has asked for the top 1,000 companies or public listed companies to report on greenhouse gas emission till the scope 3. And when we say scope 3, we are talking about our supply chain and value chain as well. Do we have a question here?
Ma'am, I think somebody unmuted themselves by mistake.
Niharika, you are on mute.
Mute.
Niharika, you are on mute. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Mute. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm audible, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So coming back to India, India also is now starting to focus on this. And what is they are doing is, again, what I will try and talk again, not in the detail of what these things are, but they are also talking about the value chain. They are not talking about the corporate itself, the entity itself, but they are talking about the whole chain. And if the time permits, Ujjwal, you will be the timekeeper. Then we can go a little bit more in detail of what is happening in CSRD and how it is changing, going to change for even for SMEs and MSMEs, not only for the big corporates. Uh, I will skip this slide and then I'll quickly move to the sustainable finance. So what all this thing has to do with sustainable finance? The thing is, the big corporates have been asked to prove that they are sustainable. What they are taking from the environment, they are also giving it back. They are doing enough to sustain this environment. They are doing enough to keep the environment in a state. To do all these things, what is needed is money. So what kind of money, how the money is being divided? The money that will be used for these sustainable activities is what is being termed as sustainable finance. No big deal around that. In that, what are being asked is environmental aspect, social aspect, and governance aspect. Environmental aspects also, what the, if we are using the money for climate change mitigation, if we are using the money to adapt for it, for biodiversity, for the blue finance, carbon finance, or any other environmental change. There are lots of parameters, there are lots of properties of such things. The rules are still getting matured. Consistent ruling is about to come, but this is on the high level what is happening. Ujjwal, if we have time, then I can go to CSRD in a bit of detail. Is that fine?
Yeah, I think we can go over it.
Okay, so CSRD, why I'm so stoked about CSRD, because this is the newest thing that is happening in EU. This is an attempt for EU to get a consistent definition of the frameworks, of the things, of the language that is being used for sustainability and ESG across. There are lots of synonyms and the acronyms that is there in sustainability that I have not put in my slide because it can become confusing. But CSRD is an attempt to make it similar. What does it say? It says that if a company who has 40 millions of turnover, 20 million of balance sheet, and more than 250 employees, then that company is coming into the purview of CSRD. What will happen? 50,000 more companies are going to be into the purview of this. Now, with this, and this has started, the first reporting they have to do in 2025, and the data collection started from 1st January 2024. And the future aspect of this CSRD is that this is going to be important for SMEs from January 2026 as well. So SMEs are also not left behind. In this, we are talking about two impacts. One, the impact that organization cause on the environment and environment cause on the organization. It also talks about third-party assurance, but in a limited terms. There is a 3 years of time that has been given for the companies to give that limited assurance of the data that they are producing. What are they are doing? That it is going to become mandatory. It's not an optional. It's not comply and explain. It's a mandatory thing that is going to happen in Europe. And this is going to make changes big time, not only in Europe, but the entities that deal with Europe organizations. I think with this, I will have not much to talk about. I can talk based on the questions that we are going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask everyone to just unmute yourself and ask the questions if you have. Ankit have raised his hand. Ankit.
Hey, Niharika, hi. Hey, can you give us some idea on Indian landscape on ESG?
That's a tough one for me, but let me try and do. Right now, there are various things that are happening. Indian, as I talk about BRSR rules and BRSR core that has been developed. Core is developed with the intention of the value chain. BRSR has been developed with the intention of the corporates. And what the corporates are doing right now, it's top 1,000 numbers in terms of numbers. And still, it's voluntary. It's still not become mandatory here in India, but they are really moving fast. For sustainability across the world, I can say that it's changing very, very fast. I mean, per second, per day, there are something new is happening. What India is also trying to do is trying to starting its own first voluntary carbon credit market. So that what that effectively means that for organizations, especially for particular sectors, I think they have identified around 6-7 sectors right now, for which there will be a cap on the carbon emission that they are going to have. The focus is still there. There are a couple of draft legislations that are there that are going to start. Majorly, this all is based on GRI, that is again a sustainability reported that has been used across the world. I think this is all that I would like to say at this moment.
Okay. So, Niharika, can you also help me understand some of the initiatives which are being done internationally, to bring
Mhm.
sustainability consideration in supply chains? If you have some idea,
Okay.
if you can throw some light on supply chain consideration or ESG consideration in supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. First thing, before I go into the details of what are the initiatives that are being taken, the importance of ESG in supply chain is being emphasized in every single article that you will read around it. Because what is happening that right now the corporations who are into the purview where the mandatory reporting has been done are focusing only on their own operations, and also focusing on only the operation, the indirect way that they are going to use the energy or producing carbon there. They have not started focusing on the phase 3, and that is their own supply chain and value chain, but it is going and increasing. Supply chain finance is riddled with similar problems that they have riddled with for the financial inclusion. What is happening, and the one project that while I was doing the research for is a project called Savannah. That project has been created by United Nations Development Project, also a monetary authority of Singapore, and a global authority called GLEAP, and that is uniquely identifying registry system that are trying to define or modify these sustainability rules with respect to MSME and SME, so that these have a single reputation. What is also happening is an attempt, especially on the EU side, they have made funds that are going to help these SMEs and MSMEs to technologically advance, especially on the digitization of these SMEs. They have also created groups who will provide technical advice, and I think this has started in 2022 or so, who will provide the technical advice for such people, because in the research it has been found that SMEs do need financial support, but they also lack information, knowledge, the know-hows of moving forward. And as I said, that most of the time, the EU is the market leader, and they are doing all the traditional thing possible in terms right now to take SMEs forward, starting from regulations to providing support in finance to providing the support of the technical know-how.
Great. So, Niharika, one more question here. See, even at Vayana, we are trying to see how we can bring ESG consideration in our supply chain finance, and through our group company Rubix. I'm not sure if Ankita or Vishnu have joined. They are leading the ESG initiatives on the Rubix side for Vayana. We are trying to see
Mhm,
how we can extend this ESG
mhm,
consideration to MSMEs in India. The
mhm,
biggest challenge that we are seeing is the cost of the uh, ESG compliance, and more than compliance, the audit, which you may uh, provide legitimate reports, which can be considered by banks
mhm,
today in the MSME segment. So, what are your
mhm.
thoughts there? How can we make this ESG compliance low cost for MSMEs, where they're able to prove the considerations and be part of the sustainability efforts?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is not the problem singularly placed by Vayana. This is a problem that has been mentioned in all the surveys that are there for SME inclusion. Now we are talking about sustainability. The similar problems was also for the financial inclusion as well. How to prove that you are a worthy credit, you have a worthy credit score. Now we are saying how to prove that you have a worthy ESG score or compliance right now, and the solution to that is all mentioned is digitalization. But yes, where the money is coming from in this scenario, the best thing is that we are think we I suggest and I propose is that to partnership. Regulations have to mature. Right now, India is not at that level where the regulations are there and their funds have been created, and that differential incentives have been created for people who are actually doing it. It's not only funds that SMEs face challenge, they also face challenge on know-how and the human capital, because it can be human intensive. So now what role Vayana wants to play in this? You just want to provide a platform and then say, okay, this is fine. But Vayana as a fintech can also play a role being a connector or being the middleman for the corporates, for the banks in Europe, for the things, because SMEs are in India. Which SME is falling into the value chain of which corporation will hopefully will become clearer, and Vayana can become that connector in between that says, okay, if somebody is coming from Vayana is a borrower or is in the Vayana system, that I'm certifying this. But for that you need to have make that uh, your assurances method transparent. So when you talk about, coming back to your question, Ankit, that how to arrange for money, it's about partnership. There's lots of impact funds who have been created. We are talking about blended finance that will be created, and we are talking about the funds from the government, funds from the UN. It's easier said than done, but yes, investors are waiting to invest their money into such incentives. What stops them is the assurance. Hope it answers your
Sure.
question.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Thanks, Niharika.
Niharika, actually, I'd like to
Hmm.
explore another
Hmm.
tangent on the same question.
Hmm.
Let's say that even if we're able to sort of prove that the way we are doing it is right and we can provide that assurance,
Hmm.
uh, you mentioned that the best way to create the future is
Hmm.
to predict the future is to create it.
Hmm.
However, I think we've seen that all the new areas that we see companies diving in India, we've seen
Hmm.
that without governmental and regulatory support, it does not see much adoption. So, how do we effectively engage and convince key stakeholders? We have our FI sales team and corporate relations and sales team
Hmm.
here as well to seriously consider and adopt these sustainable practices. Because interestingly, you did mention Project Savannah as well, and
Hmm.
wahan pe we saw that there was that sarkari push. The
Hmm.
monetary
Hmm. Hmm.
authority of
Hmm.
Singapore came in,
Hmm.
signed and
Hmm.
letter of intent and everything. Until
Exactly.
we see that happening,
Hmm.
is this the right time to really jump into this and get that, try to get that piece of the pie, or are we too early?
No, 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 no. This is the right time, because right time. You have asked a lot of questions, but let me try and answer. First, answering this question, this is really the right time, because right now there are a lot of things that are voluntary. You have the chance to experiment. You have the chance to become the leader, because whoever is going to start and do anything in this department is going to have the similar questions. In Europe, while I was reading, especially for MSME, because MSME and SMEs come with so many characteristics, the mantra that they are using is a start small, right? To buy in for the stakeholders. The sustainability ESG is going to become a reputational thing, not going to become, it has become a reputational thing. If something and somebody is able to prove that yes, I'm sustainable, and can also give evidence against it, you are the king. Now the challenge is how to get the regulatory body into it. See, I can, if I get philosophical, I'll say, yes, Vayana, go to RBI, go to this person and go and talk and put your, demand forward. But it does not work that way. But the good part of the situation is that every country is waking up. There is no way around. The regulations are changing, and regulations are changing very fast. Even with BRSR core, the government is also talking about value chain. The thing is voluntary. The thing that I am seeing and is can be a challenge is voluntary. What from Vayana side, my suggestion is Vayana side, keep the transparency utmost, keep your data secure, because data is, if you are keeping your data together, if you can prove that this data is coming from this calculation, immaterial of what that calculation is, and you can back your information, this is going to help. This is going to help, and this might, you might become a leader of of a particular sector in India. Okay, so suppose if we are talking about biodiversity sector, go to Vayana, because they have the data of say 3 years, they can do this and they can do that. It is you who have to think which direction you want to put your emphasis on, and it's not late. We should start now.
That's lovely, Niharika. I think that prompts us as an organization to have these conversations internally as well, and
Yeah.
give it a central push. So I would really urge everyone else here from different teams to ask any doubts or questions that they might have with respect to this. I know that this is a new topic for all of us, so I'm sure we have questions. Please just go ahead and ask.
See, the task for all of you here is that by the time you end this session, you are spending your 1 hour, make it worth, at least understand what is sustainability, what does it mean, and how does it impact you, how does it impact the economy, and things like that. So if there are doubts, questions there, please ask.
So, Niharika, one question
Hmm.
here. So when we look at, different types of ESG modeling,
Hmm.
do you have any suggestion on a low-cost ESG modeling that we can adopt for uh, MSMEs? And this can be made standards by way of linking it with the some of the information which can be substantiated in India. Or if not in India, is there a model available internationally, especially for MSMEs, which we can adopt at Vayana in India?
When you say ESG model, what do you mean? You mean the reporting model, or what kind of model we are talking
So
about?
reporting, scoring, you know, uh,
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So Kaik, look, Kaik is the Dutch word of look. Look, in there are lots of reporting models right now, if we talk. And when I say models, it's frameworks. There are lots of reporting frameworks. And easy or not easy is in your adoption. And these frameworks tells you the details. Right now, all I will say 90%, no, 99% of these are catered toward big business and the corporates, right? But the most commonly used is GRI, Global Reporting Initiative, and this is the most extensive one that we are talking about. I Sadly enough, there is no ready to use model for SMEs and MSMEs, and probably that is where the beauty also lies. I am an hopeful person, and I say that read through GRI. I think India is also using GRI in some form. I have seen it in the airports of Mumbai airport, for that matter. We can use GRI, and we can assign it for SMEs. We can modify it for SMEs, and then we prove it. Right now, what is important, follow 10 rules, or follow 5 rules, or follow 6 rules. Whatever rules you follow, give a traceability. That these are the rules, this is what we have followed, this is my traceability. And this is how we are calculating the data. Similarly, in if we talk about in ESG rating score, there are lots of rating agencies. All big names you can see, small names you can see here. All are rating organizations at different parameters. Some rates on environment, some rate on ESG, some rate on only governance, some rates on broader environmental aspects. So what EU is coming at right now is that the same thing that they have asked all the rating agencies, they are not going to challenge. If a rating agency has given, say, for example, Google an ESG rating of 10, and another rating agency has given it 6, they are not going to challenge why 10, why 6. What they are going to challenge only, please prove, if you are saying that you are giving Google a 6, how did you derive to that? Make your derivation public, make your data public, and everybody should know that this is your method. Right or wrong, they are not questioning. So to answer you in one word, no, there is not one such parameter. This is the problem and the beauty of the situation. You might have to think, but whatever you do, again the word, be transparent and be able to prove it.
Sure, thanks.
More questions?
Yeah. Anyone?
Yes.
So, meanwhile, I have one question. Like Ankit touched upon the cost of ESG reporting, or again, it's the cost for the organization who is sort of trying to report the data. And again, when we are talking, since we work a lot with MSMEs, so I'm talking from their point of view. So MSMEs generally in India is they are very work on very thin margin. They have very less time. They are like a small company with like 10 people, 15 people running the company. And often, yeah. So can you turn off your mic, please? Yeah, so often they work on very
Can you
yeah,
please put the mics on mute? Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Sure.
So obviously it's a new thing that's coming to them. Like let's say we go out there and say, okay, okay, aapko ye data dena musko and all those. So they would just ask a normal question, why would I do that? Why I don't have the time to do that? And so often when you do something, new, you sort of required to develop an incentive mechanism for that. So it could be okay, if you do that, you get a certain positive incentive. If you don't do that, there is a certain cost to attach to it. If you don't do it, you might gonna lose something. So I wanted to understand from that point of view. I think audience would probably also have these questions. What's the incentive, obviously positive as well as negative, for any MSME in the supply chain to sort of be compliance to ESG framework? If you could sort of throw some light on that.
If I say to this, this is basically a license to operate. As soon as the phase 3 kicks in, where all the organizations started looking into their value chain, their supply chain, they are going to ask and deal only with those suppliers and those buyers who are able to prove that they are sustainable. If they are not sustainable, they are taking enough efforts to be sustainable. There is no question, no doubt around that. So it's about license to operate. But the side business and side track of this is also, if I give you an example, that when because of this pollution, single-use plastics were banned. The MSMEs, the SMEs that were into only one business of single-use plastics, their business is closed like overnight. These kind of things can happen to SMEs and MSMEs because they are all usually in one business. When you are starting with the sustainability practices, you are already aware of what your product is, whether it is sustainable, not sustainable, and then you can take preventive measures around it. The challenge is not only about finance. The challenge is also, I again and again I'm saying, it's not only finance, it's also about the know-how. It's also about changing that mindset. It's also regulatory at this moment for SMEs and MSMEs. Does
I
that
think
answer your
that's
question?
one of
Yeah.
the problems that we are facing as of today, Niharika. The classic carrot and stick approach.
I
We
know.
penalize them or do we incentivize them?
Hmm.
Because as of now, the current situation does not demand for anyone to penalize them. So we're
Yeah.
going incentives कि यार discount करा देंगे तुमको
Yeah.
सस्ता
Yeah.
interest rate मिलेगा. We're giving
Yeah.
all these nice fluffy solutions to them,
Yeah.
and we still have to make sure that they realize that over a period of time,
Yeah.
this could turn into urgency and from urgency to mandate.
Yeah.
And I
I
think we need
agree.
to cover that
Yeah.
entire system with them.
Yeah. So the beauty again, what excites me in sustainability is also this, that this is a real and classic example of system thinking. What do we talk in system thinking? That everything is connected, nothing is happening in isolation, and this is what you see. Everything is connected to everything that is happening. What is happening in Europe will also have a major impact in India very soon, in sustainability. When we talk about which methodology to apply, both of them needs to be applied, both of them. There is no good way of saying that either we are going to penalize them or we are going to have a carrot and a stick. The change also starts, definitely some people get changed with the when you penalize them, some people with carrot and stick. What is important for a fintech like Vayana is to understand their position, where you want to position yourself in this whole system. You want to just provide a platform, or you want to take 2-3 steps here and there. You want to only provide for what we call tier 1 payments, or we are also going to deep financing. I see value in deep financing. I see value when we talk about the chain, ultimate source to buyer. But it's not going to be easy. But data is king, and data is going to be used. You are in the right place at the right time at this moment. How you're going to utilize this is what you have to see. And that is for the think tanks. Does this answer your question anywhere, or I was more
It
philosophical, Tushar?
absolutely does. I think our sales team is also thinking of it in the way that data is the gold mine here. So I think
Yeah.
we might see some effort soon.
You don't understand the amount of pressure that we have in Rabobank also, where I happen to work, and I have really put my hand legs in sustainability initiatives here. We are just kind of ignoring phase 3. We are just kind of ignoring supply chain right now, because we don't know how to deal with it.
Correct.
It's a very classical problem that was for the financial inclusion. Same problem it is. We don't have data. We don't understand what an SME is. We don't understand how will they save data. And the classical problems, we don't have enough money.
I
But the
think
problem is beyond that. Yes.
I saw this one interview of the Treasury and Finance Director at Decathlon, and of course they
Mm-hmm.
were under the pressure that they need to reduce their CO2 emissions. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I loved your take on the fact that we focus on CO2 emissions because we saw that there is a literal hole in our atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
since the pressure on them. And they came out with the statement that 75% of their emissions come from the production of their goods, and they are not
Mm-hmm.
producing at all. So now they need to put the pressure on their suppliers across the globe in order to meet their targets. उनके हाथ में ही नहीं है
Exactly.
कुछ, apart from
Exactly.
focusing on phase 3 and scope 3 emissions.
Exactly. And if we talk about now, continuing to this, Nordic countries are the top countries in sustainability. If you go see any sustainability index, irrespective of what the underlying criteria is, Nordic countries are top. But the challenge that they are facing is on phase 3. They have achieved phase 1 and phase 2, meaning they know that what they are doing, how can they reduce it. But now the challenge is that, okay, they are using an electric car who does not produce its CO2, but the place where the electric car is made is producing the same amount of CO2 or that. So now they have to work with those manufacturers. So, and suppose those manufacturers are in India, are the small SMEs that are working, and you being the fintech sitting here, and then you being the funnel of providing that data, they can directly come to you and say, okay, I am talking about the sector, say textile market. So textile market, Vayana is the leader. Whoever is the SMEs and MSMEs, they are handling it. Okay, let's connect with that and provide the data. Fintechs have a great role right now. I'm very interested in that, and I am really hoping that the classical problems of SMEs and MSMEs will at least reduce. Nothing will go away, but it will reduce with this initiative of sustainability and ESG.
Yeah, Niharika,
Mm,
exactly what I had in
mm,
mind to ask. You know,
mm,
you mentioned that fintechs have a great role to play. Now, some of
mm,
the roles that you see and suggest
mm,
where
mm.
fintechs can participate and contribute in this domain.
Yeah. So one thing definitely I say it really depends. I'm basing this on the challenges that I'm seeing and I'm reading and I'm part of. One thing is technical advisor for the people to reduce the knowledge gap. You don't have to create those solutions, but you can be the technical advisor, somebody who comes to you and say, "Oh, you have to be sustainable. What does that mean?" And let's start from there, because the awareness level is very low at this moment. That is one activity that can be taken. Be the data hub for SMEs and MSMEs, because when you onboard somebody for these kind of initiatives, when you uh, I will go to one step further also, that this ESG parameters and everything should be your regular activity. It should not be a special thing, but when you are onboarding something, like you're checking the credit score or like you're checking the feasibility, you check this as well. So you can become a data store for that. You can become a very classical sense provider platform, that I think you are good at, where people can come join together. In future, when credit markets are coming, India has just announced a voluntary credit market. I think they are going to start from 2025 or something. But you can become a platform there. You can extend it to become an international credit market. It Because international carbon market is also going to be a big thing. It is being discussed, that how carbon credit created here and can be for the organizations in Europe, for that example. You can also, I mean, the other parameters that are really needed in the market is somebody who is certifying authority, somebody who is assurance authority. That is something else that will really require you to diverse your uh, business, but start skilling on these subjects. Even the big fours, who are the auditing firms, big four auditing, they are also reskilling their people, their auditors, to become an ESG and sustainable auditors very soon.
Yeah, questions, people.
Hi Niharika, Nidhi here from Rubik's.
Yes, Nidhi. Yes.
Niharika, I wanted some help on. See, we have just started to pitch ESG as a solution, and we are also learning by listening to the client's requirements. So, what are some of the questions we should ask? Suppose manufacturing companies, like we work with a lot of manufacturing companies, or these guys where they are looking for vendor risk assessment on the ESG side. So, what are some of the probing questions, like suppose, are your goal defined? What are you looking for? What are the kinds of vendors? Do you have categorizations of vendors? So I just wanted some input from whatever experience you have to help the sales team pitch ESG better. We can use some of the insights from your side if possible. What are companies looking for, and how should we pitch ESG?
Unmute. Which kind of companies are we talking about? If I try to rephrase your question.
Suppose
Yeah.
GSG, suppose JSW Steel, or some Godrej company which is into white goods manufacturing. These kind of companies, or any pharma major who are already ahead in ESG, like their sustainability quotients are.
So what kind of questions you should ask to them?
Correct.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, when we are talking about big companies like that, they should know their own footprint. And when I talk footprint, right now we say talk footprint in terms of CO2 measurements. That's mostly is well versed. But again and again, I'll say that sustainability and GHG, it's not only about CO2. It's not only about energy. It's a full umbrella. We talk about social as well, and we talk about governance as well. Do they know what they are talking about? Do they have a clarity of the supply chain completely? Who is their ultimate source, and who's their of course they are the ultimate buyer? Do they understand what is their, sorry?
Yeah, correct. I'm
Yeah.
listening.
Do they understand the whole chain, and the chain understand their own footprint and their own ESG criteria? uh, and if they, first of all, as I said, Metan is Vetan is what in Dutch we say. Measurement is knowing. Knowing is when you change. I can bet any company who is changing and talking about sustainability at this moment, they are only talking about their own sustainability. They are not talking about the sustainability of the chain. Do they understand all these things? Do they categorize their SMEs into in a sector. Right now, the SMEs are categorized based on the number of employees, the revenues that they generate. Are we also categorizing them based on the industry that they are falling in? So probably they can have similar characteristic, or in the area that they fall in. Because an SME of 10 people in India and SME of 10 people in Europe will have a different characteristic and different requirements of ESG. So these kind of questions I think you should ask, and then we will reach to asking the basic question of, have you have solar panels, have you been efficient, are you talking how are you dealing with your waste, are you reusing, what is the circularity of your system, what is the diversity of your employee generation, what is the pay scale. These kind of questions that can be asked. If you want, I think I have a link that I was doing my research on. I can share it with Ujjwal and he can share it with you. There are a couple of questions in there, not a lot of questions.
So Nidhi, Niharika,
Sure.
this is Tushar from Rubik's. Nidhi,
Yeah,
I'd just
yeah.
like to add, in July of 2023, SEBI also came up with a circular that in financial year 2024, top 150 listed companies in India, they not only have to, in their BRSR, they do not only have to report their own ESG disclosures, but they also have to do an understanding and analysis of 75% of their total purchases and 75% of their total sales. So it's a disclosure that is required by top 150 companies of their value chain. So I think there was an earlier question related to carrot and sticks. I think initially it always starts with some bit of sticks, and about 20 years back we had seen this in the Indian pharma space also, where there was a lot of push that came from when Indian pharma companies started exporting to US and Europe. A lot of push came from these markets to have GMP certificate, which is Good Manufacturing Practices certificate. A lot of Indian pharma companies had, or rather smaller companies initially had shown a resistance, but eventually they had to align with it. And you can look at the kind of growth that has happened in pharma space from late 90s to today. So this is a similar trend. Even ESG in another form came up 10 years back in form of health, safety and environment, which is around 2011, 2012. At that time, it did not gain a lot of mileage in India. But with money being backed with respect to ESG, finance being involved now, I think it has already picked up a lot of pace. SEBI in fact pushing listed companies in India. I think that's a great move by a regulator. If top 1,000 companies are asked to disclose ESG related information for 75% of the value chain, both on the purchases and the sales, it automatically flows to the extended supply chain. So this is a great move. Of course, on the fintech side, a lot of brainstorming still needs to be done in terms of how this can be done, because this is still for tier 1 of these listed companies. How does it percolate to tier 2 and tier 3 is an important question yet to be answered.
Yeah, I agree. And to add to that, it's even further than what you have said, because CSR initiatives has been there from 1970s. And these rules that we are talking about has been there from 1970s. Only thing is that it is getting traction now, because we have really reached to a point where if we will not change, there is no point of return in terms of our environment, in terms of natural resources. And that is where everybody is giving the backing up. And the best part is regulations are there, finance is there. We just need to prove it that I'm worthy of that finance.
Yep. Thanks, Niharika.
Thanks for the question, Nidhi.
No problem.
Do we have any more questions? I think we are also past 5. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. I think it was a wonderful session. I think I'll just highlight one point that I think we were discussing, Niharika and Ayush were discussing yesterday. She actually mentioned some sort of reports in Europe. particularly focusing on export. That I think the world trade is 35 trillion dollars, and we ourselves export around $400 billion manufacturing goods. And actually, a good number goes in Europe, given that the seriousness of ESG in Europe. And it's obviously it's supply chain partners in India. It's actually extremely important for the their supply chain partners to be ESG compliant. Otherwise, the company may divert their supply chain partners to sort of more ESG compliant nations or something like that. So it does add a sense of fear, a sense of urgency for MSMEs to be ESG compliant. So that's the one part that I wanted to add. Okay. I think it was a wonderful session. I think everybody probably would have gained something and learned something on the sustainability and ESG front. Thank you, Niharika, for taking the time. That was a wonderful session. Yeah, thank
Thanks
you,
a
everyone.
lot for joining, everybody. Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.